both. I'm Laura Prada from our Telesur studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We check to start our headlines. Failed armed incursion pretended to kidnap Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro. The Brazilian city of Manaus continues to have one of the highest rates of COVID-19 related death in the country. China rejected the attempted armed incursion of mercenaries into Venezuela. We begin with our news. You stay with us. We begin with our news. Venezuela's President Nicolás Maduro presented new evidence against the U.S. mercenaries who tried to topple the Bolivarian government.
The world is wondering who organized this mercenary and terrorist raid that intended to fill Venezuela with blood. Who organized that? Who is behind that? Who gave the order? Who financed it? When? Where? How? These are answers that are starting to come out every day, and the answers are going to be expanded through the investigations in the coming weeks. There have been testimonies, top testimonies, speaking of the involvement of this individual, this American citizen, a former Green Beret, Jordan Woodrow. He is president and CEO of a security company, Silver Corp, based in Florida. Whoever wants to search for the elements, you will be able to easily get them in the United States. Jordan Woodrow has worked directly with Donald Trump for many years. He has rendered security services, intelligence services.
The president said that U.S. mercenaries had signed an agreement with the opposition lawmaker Juan Guaidó to make over the operation.
You will see how this person confessed how he was swindled by the extremist Guaido-led opposition in Venezuela. He was swindled. He was robbed. And how he finishes his contract and he tells the truth. He shows the contracts with the signatures, with all the terms and conditions, and he also claimed responsibility for this armed incursion in Macuto and for the terrorist group that we have captured, and some of them were gone down, which we'll continue to capture over the next few hours.
During the same press brief, President Maduro also presented part of the interrogation in which U.S. mercenary Luke Alexander Denman confirmed the participation of Venezuelan opposition lawmaker Juan Guaidó in the failed terrorist plot.
Did you know about a document that described the close of the operation?
Yes, I saw it about a month and a half ago with Jordan's signature and Juan Guaido's signature.
The mercenary confirmed that the goal of the operation was to kidnap President Nicolás Maduro and take him to the United States.
What other tasks involved taking control of the airport?
Securing the sector, establishing outer security, communicating with the tower, bringing in planes, one of which includes one to put Maduro on and take him back to the United States.
Venezuela accused the United States and its Drug Enforcement Agency of masterminding the failed attack against the country. The details we have it on Rolando Segura's story.
For 1 year, the incursionists lived in 3 camps in neighboring Colombia.
It's up to us to create a new history.
About 300 deserters of the Venezuelan military and police force enlisted under the command of at least 3 former special operations soldiers from the United States.
We will train and follow your tactical plan to help us free our country from tyranny. You can count on us.
On the front lines is 43-year-old Jordan Godreau, a highly decorated 3-time Bronze Star recipient for courage in deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan as a Special Forces medic.
We want to thank you, Mr. Jordan, for helping us work towards the liberation of Venezuela.
On its website, Godreau's private security company, Silver Corp USA, boasts of conducting operations in more than 50 countries. Godreau aligned himself to U.S. President Donald Trump's incessant need to topple President Maduro and was soon introduced to Trump's longtime bodyguard Keith Schiller through someone who worked in private security. Both attended a meeting with opposition member Juan Guaido in the United States.
I've asked my team to update our plans to reopen the U.S. Embassy in Caracas so that we are ready to go. As soon as Maduro steps aside, I am confident that we will raise that flag again in Caracas.
Operation Gideon saw the arrest or assassination of President Nicolas Maduro and the seizure of Caracas in 96 hours. However, at the first sign of failure, the lead incursionist had this to say.
Our men are continuing to fight right now. Our units have been activated in the south, west, and east of Venezuela.
By that time, the Bolivarian forces had already killed 8 of the mercenaries. Authorities also revealed that one of the men who was captured confessed to being a DEA agent.
I spoke to Captain Antonio Sequea. We met in Bogota, and he presented a military operation that was organized by Donald Trump and his government.
Later, 2 former U.S. soldiers were captured in the coastal state of Aragua.
One of them is Luke Alexander Denman, war veteran.
The U.S. citizens are from the state of Texas, one from Dallas, the other from Austin, and were part of a contract signed by opposition member Juan Guaido to invade Venezuela.
Here, you can do the sign. Okay, he signed in every page, like I said.
Guaido first dismissed the armed incursion against his country as a montage of the government. Once neutralized, hours later he began to demand respect for the human rights of the mercenaries.
They were waiting for them to kill them. Who are those bodies they showed in the state of Vargas?
After absolute silence for more than 48 hours, Donald Trump denied any connection to the plot to overthrow Nicolas Maduro.
I just got information, nothing to do with our government, but I just got information on that. So we'll find out. We just heard about it. But whatever it is, we'll let you know. But it has nothing to do with our government.
U.S. media have dubbed Operation Gideon the Venezuelan Bay of Pigs, in reference to the first great defeat of the United States in Latin America when its mercenaries invaded Cuba by entering Playa Girón.
Also in Venezuela, fishermen in Chuao, a small coastal town in Aragua state in Venezuela, were part of an operation that detained 8 mercenaries trying to lead an incursion into the country. The so-called Operation Gideon sought to carry out terrorist attacks in Venezuela, including a possible assassination attempt against President Nicolas Maduro. Our correspondent Madeleine Garcia has the details.
This is the coast of Chuao, a fishing town well known for its cocoa plantations. It can only be reached by sea or air. Security forces are still in the area after a group of fishermen on Sunday detected an unknown boat carrying 8 mercenaries following a joint operation between civilians and the military and the police. The mercenaries were captured on this beach.
We were fishing as we do most days, when we saw a speedboat we didn't recognize. After we reported, this helicopter from the armed forces arrived over the area, accompanied by the Navy contingent. They never thought a fisherman could also be part of the militia. Farm workers are part of the militia. So are teachers, policemen. We are all part of the Bolivarian militia. As a people, we are always at the ready.
Vamos a darle un aplauso al mundo desde Chuao, que Venezuela se respeta.
Another thing these mercenaries couldn't imagine was that they would be captured by a Chavista community that was already on the alert following intelligence about a possible incursion.
They underestimated us, thinking less of us. They didn't see us coming as an organized people. They think they are John Rambo and we are simple workers, but we will always triumph.
This is the social fabric that has been woven over more than 20 years of the Bolivarian Revolution. Once more, David met Goliath in what was proven to be an attempt at an invasion backed by the United States.
They came face to face with us and our simple weapons, our rifles and small pistols that did not compare to theirs. As we were getting ready to apprehend them, we saw some of them were trying to reach their weapons to fire at us. That's when the fishermen helped us restrain them with their fishing lines. When one of them said he was the son of Baduel, we knew these were the terrorists we had been warned about. We had their pictures already and were on alert. When they got off the boat, we came to support the police officers because there were few of them.
As they were being apprehended and before backup arrived, the mercenaries asked to be freed.
They told us to join their cause, saying this government was going to be toppled. They said there were more of them and they were doing this for us. They said we were the same, we belonged to the same country, and they told us they had dollars. No matter how much money they offer, we will always maintain our dignity.
Peace was interrupted for a moment in Chuao and its people came out to defend it.
With violence you cannot win. This is a united nation. They weren't just coming to kill the president. If that had happened, this would have become a slaughterhouse, and we can't allow that. This town is paradise. We know how to fish, how to work. We have people who work in the cacao plantation and others who fish. We are not used to violence. This is not how you get rid of a government. If you want Maduro out, you need to take part in the electoral process. This is not the way.
Madeline García, Telesur, Chuao, Venezuela.
And this Wednesday, the latest return to the homeland flight arrived to Venezuela, this time hailing from Chile. Around 250 Venezuelan citizens arrived in the humanitarian flight sponsored by the Bolivarian government. The migrants said they had been forced to live on the streets as a result of the COVID-19 crisis, adding they were evicted from their homes and did not have access to proper health care. Like this, we go for a first break. Remember, follow us on Twitter at Telesur English and on my account at Laura P. Telesur. We'll be right back. We are back with our news. The Brazilian city of Manaus continues to have one of the highest rates of COVID-19 related death in the country. This is coupled with a lack of crucial medical equipment, mainly much needed ventilators. By Wednesday afternoon, the death toll in Brazil rose to 8,536 and at least 121,600 have been infected by the new coronavirus. Health experts and even authorities said that due to the lack of tests, the actual numbers are likely much higher. This week, the mayor of Manaus, Arthur Virgilio Neto, asked the leaders of the world to help the capital of Amazonas state by sending all possible medical equipment, including ventilators and scanners.
Today, I feel powerless. I feel anger. I don't have any more tears to cry. We cry all we had to cry, but we're sad. We look for my grandmother, died because she was in very serious condition, but she died because there was not ventilator equipment for her. Do you understand? If there was that ventilator equipment in that health unit that only has one equipment, she would have survived. The saddest thing was the doctor looking at the family and saying, I did what I could, but without equipment I can't.
Residents of Sao Paulo favela in Brazil have graduated as first aid workers to help their community fight COVID-19. Hundreds graduated as first aid workers in Paraisópolis, the second largest favela with more than 100,000 people. Residents say their actions are essential since the government doesn't have a program for the favelas during the pandemic. The region is one of the most affected by the virus, and Brazil has reached the highest daily toll since the pandemic hit the country, with 600 cases.
We are facing an urgent moment. We cannot wait. This is very serious. That is why here we are helping each other.
We decided to set up Death Brigade because we struggle a lot to have public ambulance services, which we call SAMU. We call them and they don't answer. And even when they answer the call, nobody comes. So we cannot rely on fast public service.
In Yemen's capital, Sana'a, a 24-hour curfew has been announced following the first reported COVID-19 death on Tuesday. The Houthi government announced the curfew will be imposed in 10 neighborhoods of Sana'a. The health minister said the measures are to prevent a major spread of the novel coronavirus. The war torn officially records a total of 22 cases and 4 deaths.
These preventative measures are the only solution to limit the spread of coronavirus. Until this day, there are no vaccines, and the health situation in our country is not qualified to handle even the mildest cases of coronavirus. What about if someone shows severe signs of infection with the virus? My message to all Yemenis is to be aware and to follow precautionary measures.
And South African epidemiologist and chief government advisor Salim Abdol Karim said the government has so far managed to screen 15% of the population for COVID-19.
The 7th of April, we have our community health workers just going house to house, screening people for symptoms and then testing them. We have to date screened something like 7.5 million people. That's about 15% of our population. We are in the region of around sort of 2.7 to about 3.7% of our tests are positive. If you want to translate that, we do roughly about 40 tests to find one positive.
And second, we have now a second and very short break. Just stay. Back with our news, the Chinese Foreign Ministry has rejected the attempted armed incursion of mercenaries into Venezuela. To have more details of what they specifically said, we go to Beijing with our correspondent Iranzi Peraza. Iranzi, welcome.
Hua Chunying, the spokesperson of the Chinese foreign minister, condemned the failed plan to invade Venezuela this weekend and also reject any interference against the sovereignty of the Bolivarian nation or any other country in the world. In her daily press conference, the official strongly rejected this attempt at the maritime invasion, which was perpetrated by mercenaries trying to sow chaos and overthrow the legitimate government of the President Nicolás Maduro. Hua Chunying said that China will not accept under any excuse the violation of the sovereignty of the Venezuela or any country, and also highlight the efforts of the Venezuelan government to defend and safeguard its stability and improve the lives of its people. China has always been on the side of a peaceful solution for the Venezuelan situation, respecting international law, a stance that stands in contrast to the hostile policy of the United States government. The Asian giant also recently condemned Washington's application of unilateral and coercive sanctions against nations like Venezuela, Cuba, Iran, and Nicaragua.
Thank you, Iramsi. Let's check out now our details about COVID-19. The Russian president has held a video conference along with governors and health authorities to analyze the possible lifting of some restrictions. According to President Vladimir Putin, industrial plants and construction sites are allowed to reopen. Additionally, he supported a three-phase plan which will initially seek the reopening of small businesses, moving on them to address schools and large businesses. The final step of the proposal will allow a total reopening of the economy considering the COVID-19 situation in East region. In turn, Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin announced that restrictive measures will not be eased in the capital as the number of positive COVID-19 cases have increasingly multiplied. Serbian lawmakers have voted to end the state of emergency imposed to help curb the spread of COVID-19 as the country reports 9,791 cases with 203 deaths.
155 lawmakers voted for, 1 abstained, and 1 did not vote. I state that National Assembly, with majority of the vote, has adopted a proposal for a decision to lift the state of emergency.
Spain's parliament has voted to extend the country's state of emergency as daily death toll remains in the hundreds, allowing stringent coronavirus measures to remain in place for at least 2 more weeks. The government imposed lockdown 8 weeks ago to stop the spread of the virus. Spain is one of the most affected nations by COVID-19, which has killed more than 25,000 people and infected over 220,000 in the country. British authorities have announced the coronavirus death toll in the country passed 30,000 after a further 649 deaths were announced on Wednesday.
Today's data shows that 1,448,010 tests for coronavirus have now been carried out across Great Britain, including 69,463 tests carried out yesterday. 201,101 people have tested positive. That's an increase of 6,111 cases since yesterday. 13,615 people are currently in hospital with coronavirus in Great Britain, down from 13,922 yesterday. And sadly, of those hospitalized with the virus, 30,076 have now died. That's an increase of 649 fatalities since yesterday.
In the Vatican, Pope Francis has expressed his concern about agricultural workers, including migrants, who he says are being exploited.
On May 1st, I received many messages regarding issues in the working world. The issues faced by agricultural workers caught my eye, including the plight of many migrants who work fields in Italy. They are often brutally exploited. While it's true the world is going through a crisis, the dignity of all must be respected. As such, I call on all to consider the lives of exploited workers and to respect the dignity of work and of individuals.
Like this, we come to the end of the news brief. Of course, you can find this and much more other information on our website, telesurenglish.net, where you can read opinion articles, watch special interviews, and update yourself about the latest information happening in the world. Of course, you can follow up the latest attempts to invade Venezuela. And of course, you can find information related to the numbers of COVID-19 in the world on our website. You can follow the numbers worldwide in Latin America and the Caribbean, and of course follow the most affected countries in the world due to the pandemic. The invitation is made to continue with us with Telesur, always together, connecting our global thousands. And next time, thank you for watching.